Hello everyone, welcome to another Narc Survivor live video. In this one we're going to be talking about how ignoring a narcissist changes everything. Because the whole game with narcissists is for them to get your attention. They want you to remain attached to them, to always be thinking about them. Whether it's in a positive way or a negative way. Initially, they want it in a positive way, if they can get you to validate the false self. But otherwise, they will settle for submission, devaluing you, putting you down. That gives them a negative supply when they get you to submit to them. And really, they don't mind either way, as long as they have access to someone who can give them positive supply as well, if it's not going to be you. So this is typically how it works. And it's why they constantly need your attention. When a narcissist has your attention on them, it validates them. It makes them feel in control. It gives them a sense of superiority over you. And that's why they're always trying to influence and control you in some sort of way. They're always trying to get your attention on them. And they'll do anything they can to bait you in, to get you to notice them. Because then what happens is you direct your energy and attention towards them. They steal your sense of self. And of course, before engaging with them, you may have felt empowered. You may have felt good about yourself. But then after dealing with them, you feel like you're missing something when you didn't feel that way before. And it's because, yes, they have taken something from you. They've robbed you of your autonomy, your sense of self, that previously you were using to direct your own attention, feelings, and behaviors. This is what narcissists do when they get around us. They take from us our life force. So whenever you are interacting with a narcissist, they have some sort of influence or power over you. And it is not in your best interest. It is not going to be any good for you. Because as we know, narcissists, they are self-serving. They're all about themselves. They're all about how they can use and exploit you for their own personal gain. And of course, they have nothing to give back to you. All they have is a void, and that void can never be filled. So this is the purpose of them engaging with you. This is the only reason why they get around you. It is to take this from you, to strip your life force away from you, because it provides them with a sense of power and control. It makes them feel empowered, because it validates the false self. It makes them feel desirable or powerful, special, important. All of the things that they pretend to be, but all of the things that they are not. So your attention validates this illusion while you're being manipulated, gaslighted. You feel like you're losing your mind, you're going crazy. You don't know which way is up or down anymore. You don't know who you are. This is what happens when you get involved with a gaslighter, a manipulator. Someone who has to rewrite the past, create a false narrative, flip reality upside down to serve their own interests. Because reality naturally is not in their favor. It favors you over them, and that's how you become a target. That's how you become their source of supply. So that's a little intro for this video of what's really going on when you're constantly giving them your attention. And this is why we often preach about going no contact, because that's really the only way that you can win with a narcissist, is when you no longer engage with them. As long as you're interacting with a narcissist, as long as you're communicating with them in some sort of way, you're being stripped of something. They're taking something from you. Something that they cannot give back. Something that you're never going to see again, and yet you're going to be chasing after them for it. That's what's going to happen when you're dealing with a narcissist. Because all they have is a void, and they can never be satisfied. So no matter what you do for them, they're still not going to be happy. They're still going to be very arrogant and entitled, and they're still going to blame you. And they're going to expect you to do more for them. They're going to expect you to sacrifice your life for them. And it's just never going to be enough. You're never going to win with them. It's never going to be anything that uplifts you or that is in your best interest. Because these are people who can't even sustain themselves. And so they get around you to use you for their own personal gain, for their own self-interest. And that's really all that it is. It's not a relationship. It has nothing to do with love. It will only ever be a one-sided transaction. It will never be of mutual benefit. They're never going to care about you. They're never going to be thinking about what you're going through, what they're putting you through. That's never going to be a concern to them. Unless, of course, they feel your supply slipping away. And even then, it's still just all about themselves. It's still just all about how it pertains to them. It's just about getting your supply back so that you can continue to fuel them. So yeah, that's the intro for this video. This is why they always want your eyes and ears to be on them. This is why they try and set up the situation in a way where you're constantly ruminating about them and wondering what they're going to do next. Because it favors them that way. But yeah, if you're finding this video helpful so far, and if you're ready to hear about how ignoring a narcissist can change everything, then hit that thumbs up button down below. Together, let's grow our community and get this message out there to others who need it as well. Ignoring a narcissist changes everything. It shatters their sense of control and power over you. Because that's just it. They have no power of their own. As you may have witnessed already, they have no discipline, self-control. They can't manage themselves. They can't regulate their own emotions. Everything they get, they've got to get it from you. They need you to prop them up. They need you to make them feel worthy, desirable, powerful, important. They need you to pacify them, baby them, appease them. They need you to do all of that for them. They need you to be their emotional caretaker, their punching bag, their ATM. Because you are their source of supply. They need you to supply them with all of these benefits and conveniences, things that they cannot do for themselves. And this is why when you ignore the narcissist, it shatters their sense of control and power over you. Because all they really want is to maintain an authoritative influence over you. They want to dominate you. Of course they do, because you're something of value. You serve them in many ways. You feed their ego. You give them life, energy. You make them feel alive. And this is why they determine your behavior. And they want to direct the course of events, how things are going to pan out. They always want to be in a position of power over you, authority, so that they can determine how things are going to go, rather than you deciding for yourself. Because they don't want you to decide what's in your best interest, what's good for you. They want you to serve them. They want you to put them before yourself. And of course, this is how they end up running you into the ground. Because they don't even care about you, it's just all about them. It's all about how they can use you to meet their own needs at your expense. And this is how gradually they just end up depleting you until there's nothing left. Until you don't even know who you are anymore. You feel like your entire life, your entire purpose now just revolves around them. Around trying to help them, around trying to make them feel better. It's like that's all that your life has become. You've had to sacrifice yourself, your goals and dreams for this person who's not even doing anything for you. And doesn't even care about your feelings or needs. Your dreams, goals or ambitions. It's just all about themselves. And this is what they do, all while making you believe that you are unworthy or that something is wrong with you. As though you don't deserve anything from them. And you have no right to even take care of yourself. While all the while, they do see the value in you. Because of course, why would anyone want to have any authority, any power or control over garbage, over a pile of poop? How is that going to serve them in any way? But you do have value. You are an asset to them. They try and convince you that you are a problem, you are a liability. No, it's actually the opposite. You are an asset to the narcissist. And that's why they want to keep you around. That's why they targeted you. That's why they want to maintain their sense of power and control over you. Because you're like a gold mine. They've struck gold. And they want to keep getting more and more from you. While never letting you know just how great you are. Because if you were to know how much you've already done for them, and how they're actually the ones who are unworthy, undeserving of you, which is something that they're fully aware of deep down. But if you were to know that, if you were to wake up to that fact, then you would be the one with your hands out. You would be the one who is expecting something back in return for your services to them. And this is why they never compliment you. This is how you just end up losing yourself, not even knowing who you are anymore. Because they never want you to know just how much of an asset you are to them. Just how much you have upgraded their lives. They never want you to know that, and that's why they go to the devaluation. So that you don't ever figure it out. At least, not until you find my videos, my content. or another YouTuber or someone on TikTok. Not until you discover this information. And then things start to make sense. Because of course you recognize you've done a lot for this person. You've given a lot of yourself to them. And all they want to do is just downplay it, play it down, act like it's nothing. While all the while they're still taking from you, draining you, never letting you know your value. And yet you see how excited they are to get around you, how enthusiastic they are about you. Because it's like they're always there. They want all of your attention to be on them. So what is that about? Of course, it all reveals that they are benefiting from being around you. They are getting something out of it. And they're getting out far more than what they're putting in. Far more than what you're receiving. And you are deserving of far more than that. But they will never let you know that. They will never tell you. But this is the truth, and this is how you become their grade A primary source of supply. Because you're not just some bit on the side. You're not just some one night stand. You are someone who they occupy all of your time and attention. They always want you to be there. They always want you to be around them. And they have assigned you for this purpose. And yet they're devaluing you, they're putting you down, and this is how you know. And this is why they want to have that power over you. But then you see them with other sources applied, they're not too worried about that. They don't care about what they're doing, where they're going. It's not even a concern. But with you, it's very different. They're very controlling over you. Because you're like a valuable possession. They get very jealous. Because at some level, they recognize your worth and they don't want that to be taken away from them. They want to hold on to you for as long as they can. And so this is why they hate it when you ignore them. Because then it shatters their sense of power and control over the valuable asset, which is you. They can no longer access you. Something of value, something that served them up until that point. And this is why they get so angry. It causes a narcissistic injury. Because you are a valuable possession to them. And they want to maintain that control over you. As they have been doing up until this point. But yeah, it changes everything for you when you ignore them. Because of course, once you shatter their power and control over you, you then get to experience your freedom. Your own autonomy and independence outside of them. Which of course, it's very freeing for you. But that's just it. Because they're using you, because they decide to have this authoritative position over you, your freedom, your autonomy imprisons them in their own voids. It leaves them to their own feelings of emptiness, which they try to use you to fill. This is what happens when you ignore them, when you walk away. For them, they feel empty after they've been using you up until that point. For us, it's freeing. It's empowerment. Because we never needed them anyway. We never got anything of equal exchange. There was no reciprocation. So for us, it's freedom. For them, it's imprisonment. And that's why they want to remain attached. They want to hold on to us. But when you ignore them, it shatters the emotional supply they crave. Remember, these people are empty inside. Many of them are depressed. So they need your emotions, your energy, your reactions to fill them up inside, to make them feel something. They need you to constantly pour into them. And yet they always want more. They can be very greedy. It's never enough. Because they're empty people. There's nothing inside of them. They need to get that supply from you. So when you ignore them, they lose that emotional supply. And they're left to reflect on their own void. But typically they're not going to do that for a long time. And instead they're going to seek out a new source. They're going to try and find someone else to replace you. Because the last thing they want is to be left alone by themselves. And this is why for such a long time they remain hooked on you. They couldn't let you go. Even while all the while they were complaining about you and saying that what you were doing for them wasn't good enough. And yet they still wanted more. And they weren't doing anything for you. 100 live viewers, give it a thumbs up if you find it helpful so far. But yeah, when you ignore them, it forces them to face their own insecurities. And this is what they're running away from. This is why they want to keep you as their source of supply. Because you help them to run away from all of that. They're trying to run away from the inside, how they truly feel about themselves. And they use you as a distraction. It's a form of escapism, amusement, entertainment. That's what they get from you. And it makes them feel much better about themselves. Which is how you should know that when you slip away, when you ignore them, then they don't feel too good. Even though they may never tell you this, some of them might. But many narcissists will never let you know how good you make them feel. How they use you as a distraction from their own miserable selves, their own miserable lives. That is what they use you for. And you give them a high. So of course, when you ignore them, all of that slips away. And they go back to how they usually feel. Insecure, paranoid, threatened, hypervigilant. Instability, dysregulation, a lack of discipline and self-control. And this is how you see, after they get involved with you or towards the end, as you begin to slip away, what happens? You see all of that instability. You see that lack of discipline and self-control. They become unhinged. They start doing all of these crazy things. And then after they leave you, maybe they're out partying, they're drinking, they're doing all sorts of things, running off with a new source. And of course, you know, that's not to invalidate anyone here. Anyone who may be doing a similar thing themselves, just trying to cope. And of course, you know, for us it's different. Remember, they create this instability in us. They provoke it through the abuse, manipulation, gaslighting. There's a big difference between us and them. And remember, you weren't that way before you got involved with them. You gave them a sense of stability. They got that from you. So remind yourself of that. They were the ones who were manipulating, provoking, gaslighting you, blaming you for everything. You couldn't even talk to them about it. No resolution. That's what they were doing. So don't let them twist it around on you. You're not the crazy or unstable one. They just provoked you. They trained you to be that way. Because that's how they wanted to keep you. That's what helped them to maintain that control over you and to keep getting that validation and a sense of superiority. So don't ever let them make you feel bad. Remember that that is what they wanted. Don't let them twist it around on you. They wanted to keep you in submission, under their control. They wanted to keep you destabilized. That was the whole point. That's the whole game with narcissists. But that's actually what they're like, and that's how they're going to feel when you ignore them. It's going to destabilize them. And this is why you must be careful when you do this, because they can be unpredictable. You never know how they might react. When they no longer have that sense of control over you, where it's like they don't know that if they push a button, it's not going to get a certain reaction, or they can't get you to do what they want you to do when they want you to do it, then they feel like they've lost that control. You're no longer their puppets. Then they start to feel insecure. It triggers them to reflect on their own feelings of inadequacy. And that's why they then lash out. That's why they try to regain control out of envy, jealousy, or they may even sabotage you. Because just seeing your freedom, empowerment, independence, autonomy, all of these things makes them feel insecure, jealous. So this is why they do that. Because they know it's never going to be like that for them. They're never going to be independent. They're never going to be able to build a life for themselves. They have to manipulate and exploit people. They have to be fake. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. And of course, when they feel you slipping away, they know that. Because remember, that's where they targeted you. That's where they got involved with you. Because it fueled them to be around someone who is autonomous, independent, powerful. Because of course, they derive that sense of power and control from you. But when you ignore them, their manipulative tactics become ineffective. They can no longer manipulate you if you don't engage. This is why they do anything to provoke a response. They try to make you fearful, afraid, worried, insecure. They try to target your stability in the hopes that then they will get a response. Because as long as you're engaged with them, then it's effective for them. Then they're getting that supply. They're using your life force. But when you refuse to engage with them, then they have no power at all. They have to get the power from you. They can't do anything on their own. Of course, that's where they need you. That's why they don't want to let you go. 111 live viewers, give it a thumbs up if this video is good for you. They've got to have that authority and control over you. It makes them feel superior. It validates them. But when you ignore them, they lose all of that. It disrupts their false sense of superiority. Because remember, they're getting that from you. They don't feel superior or in control on their own. Only if they can boss you around. Only if they can tell you what to do. then they feel empowered. But you just leave them on their own. You ignore them, and then they don't feel so superior anymore, because they can't generate those feelings from within. And this is why typically they will seek out a new source, or they will try to regain that control over you. They will try to affect you in some sort of way. They're not just going to let you go. But it benefits you when you ignore them, because you then create space for healing and personal growth, which of course are things that you can't really do while you're still under their influence, while you're still engaged with them. These are things that you can only really do on your own, because being around them is harmful. Remember, they have to use, exploit you for their own benefit and personal gain. But when you walk away, you can then heal, you can then grow. As long as you're around a narcissist, you remain trapped in the trauma bond, because that's all they've got to share with you is trauma. They're not about growth. They will remain stuck, trapped. They will never be able to connect to you. They will only ever be able to use you. And that's just the only way that it's ever going to be with them. It's never going to be any different. But for you, it can. And this is another reason why they don't want to let you go. Because if you move on, if you leave them behind, it exposes their false reality. It reminds them that all they have is a false sense of superiority. It shows them that they're still in the matrix. That's why they don't want to let you go. That's why they have a crabs in the bucket mentality. Because for them to witness you moving on, it just makes them feel like everything they have is nothing, worthless, garbage, without you there to submit to them and validate them. And that's why they want to maintain that power and control over you, because they need an audience. They need someone to follow their orders, someone who they can dominate. Because without that, it means nothing. What's the point in them having a false image if there's no one who they can dominate with? Then it's worthless. I mean, the whole point of them being superior is that they do have someone who's inferior in their minds, someone who they can treat as they like. And of course, that's where we come in. Once we begin to intimidate them, then they want to put us beneath them. And they want to treat us subservient to them. Because of course, for them to be superior, someone has to be less than them. So they're seeking power, and this is why there's never any connection. This is why there's never a real relationship. It's always just a transaction. Because this is their mindset. This is the way that they think. And this is why all they're ever going to do is use you. It's always going to be shallow, superficial. You're never going to get anything real. Because that's just it. A real person doesn't need to do that. A real, genuine person doesn't have to feel superior to anyone. And that's who you know that you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic, who's not real, is that they have to feel superior to you. And what is the reason for that? Why can't they feel good by themselves? Why do they need supply? Why do they need to extract admiration, attention, control from you? Especially from someone who they deem to be subservient to them. So if you're really less than them, then why are you providing them with attention, validation, admiration? This is what it's all about. It reveals that you are actually the one who is superior to them, if you want to think from how they think. Because again, you're the one who is propping them up. You're the one who is serving them. They're not doing anything for you. They're not improving your life in any way. And they're just taking away from your energy, your attention. They're depleting you. They're taking away everything that you had before you got involved with them. And you're uplifting them. So this is how you know that it's actually you. You are the one who's more in control. You are the one who is superior to them. And this is what they don't want you to know. This is what they want you to never figure out. Because they want you to remain in the fantasy world with them. But when you ignore them, it changes everything. Because then you're no longer playing their game. As long as you're around a narcissist, you're only ever going to be a source of validation, superiority, control. Because all of these things they lack within. They're not self-validated because it's not even real. The false image that you see. They're very insecure. Deep down they feel worthless, inferior to everyone. They feel completely broken. And this is why they do the things that they do. This is why they target you. And just because you've ignored them, that doesn't mean they're going to move on and things suddenly get better for them, as they may want you to think. No, they never figure it out. They repeat this same cycle with someone else. It never changes, it never gets better. They just remain in shallow, superficial connections, never truly experiencing or being satisfied with anything. And it's all just a show. It's all just an orchestration to try and prove to you that they have moved on. They are happy. It's all just to prove that to you. But that's the whole point. If that's really true, then what do you even need to prove it for? The more grand the display, the more that they put on a show after you're gone, it reveals just how insecure they are. And that's what they're trying to compensate for. Because otherwise, they would just move on peacefully. They wouldn't be so erratic, attention-seeking. They are because they're missing something that they are trying to extract, obtain from their attention-seeker behavior. But typically, you know what they like to do is they like to deplete, eradicate you, and then make it out like there's something wrong with you now. But that's just it. There's something wrong with us. I mean, yeah, if we want to see it that way, it is only because we got involved with them. Only because we were around a predator. Someone who ruthlessly exploited us with no remorse. Of course, there's going to be something wrong if you get involved with someone like that. Because you're around something that's unhealthy, toxic, negative. So of course that's going to take away from you. And it takes away from you because they're missing something. Some people say that narcissists have no value. Zero value. I'd like to take that one step further. They don't even have that. Because what happens when you get around them? They deplete you. They drain the life out of you. So how can they have zero value? If they did, then you would remain the same. The fact that they take away from you, that they're so negative, reveals that they have a negative value. If they had zero value, things wouldn't be so bad. They wouldn't end up completely destroying you, ruining your mental health. They wouldn't end up doing that. They do because they have a negative value. And that's why initially when they target you, they put on such a show, they love bomb you, seduce you, all of that, because they're trying to hide the fact that they do have a negative amount of value. They don't want you to know that just by them being around you, it's depleting you. It's affecting you in a negative way. You're not even remaining the same. But this is how gradually over time you notice a decline in your mental health, physical health, your finances, just all sorts of things. It becomes very draining. And by the end of it, you don't even know who you are anymore. Because they've stripped all of that away from you. This is what they do. And this is why we talk about going no contact. Because that's the only thing that's going to serve you. It's the only thing that's going to make things better for you. Is going no contact, is not being around them anymore. As I remember, Michelle Neves mentioned in one of her videos, she said, just look at the progress that you have made from being around a narcissist over the past few months, maybe even the past few years. Are you willing to stick around to see the same amount of progress in the next few months, the next few years? Because that's just it with these narcissists. It's always one step forward, two steps back. It never gets better, it only gets worse. So even if you ignore them, they come back, they hoover you, they give you the false apology, they act like they're trying to make it better for you. You've got to ignore that too. Because it's not going to get any better. If it's going to get better, let's see them get better by themselves. Let's see them do that. Because that's how you know that it's real. If they can do it for themselves. But of course, as we know, that's not typically what they do. They always rely on you. They play the victim. They act like they're in a crisis. They act like it's something that's in urgent need of your attention. And this is why you just got to slow things down. You just got to be like, what for? What does it need your engagement for? What is it going to do for you? That's how you got to look at it. Because you know, a narcissist, everything's always so fast. It's all about just trying to extract as much from you in as little as time possible. But yeah, when you ignore them, it will change everything for you. Just by going no contact. Of course, you do need to be very careful because they're going to be on you. They're not going to be happy losing possession of their source of supply. Everything that fulfills them, it makes them feel powerful, superior, in control. Of course, when they lose that control over you, it makes them feel worthless, irrelevant, insignificant. They're not going to be happy about it. Because in their minds, they own you. You belong to them. You're their little toy, their little plaything. They see it as though they own you. And that's why I do advise that you speak to a therapist or coach first, before you go no contact, before you ignore the narcissist. Because like I said, they can be unpredictable. You never know how they might react. So definitely, be very careful when you're dealing with them. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the live chat. I do have some time today to answer them. And give it a thumbs up if you haven't yet. Let's work together to grow this community and to bring in new viewers, other people who can also benefit from this information. Lorraine Diane says the ex-narc lives with his head in the clouds, oblivious of the real world. Oh, they all do. I mean, they're not truly connected with reality. They operate with all of these coping and defense mechanisms to defend against reality and to protect their fragile ego. And that's why they distort everything and reinterpret it to be about how special or desirable, powerful they are. They distort everything to be about that, but then they're also very paranoid of any slights, any criticisms, and then immediately they have to attack it, discredit anyone who speaks out against them or threatens to expose them. That's what their life is like. That's how they live every day. It's a warped sense of reality. And this is what they have to do. And of course, this is why they had to get around people like me or you to sustain this illusion, to make them feel better, to support their false reality. Kim H says you feel like you live to serve them and you don't want to mess up. Yeah, it's crazy, but this is what it's like. We actually, you may not even see it this way, but we walk on eggshells to ensure that they don't have to reflect on their shame. We try and prop them up. We try and delay the devaluation for as long as we can because we don't want to deal with that. So we walk on eggshells, like it's like a minefield when we try to tread around anything that might otherwise set them off or make them feel insecure, to allow them to continue to live in the fantasy world. Almost like between a parent and a child. But that's just it. When you come back into reality, when you do see them for what they are, as flawed, or not just flawed, but more flawed than most people, then they really come down on you like a ton of bricks. Then you see the monster underneath the mask. Then you see just how flawed they really are. Mohit Mehta, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, says they suck succulent life force out of our body. That's right, they drain the life out of you. Energy vampires. Because that's just it. They need your energy. They need your soul. They haven't got one of their own. All they have is the facade. All they have is the deceptive outward appearance. Mimi Reese says, we're agreeing with the fact that they suck the life force out of you, even victims so exhausted and defeated. Yeah, of course, that's something we all have to experience. It's being drained and losing touch with who we are. I mean, they just completely ruin your life. And what is it for? It's all just to prop up this false image that's not even real. And it's all to make it seem real to other people. Of course, you being the closest person to them, you know that it's fake more than anyone else. But it's all to maintain this facade to observers, to outsiders. Of course, the nearest and dearest, I mean, we see all the flaws. We know exactly what they're like. Mimi BD says every word you're speaking is truth, but you should tell them what they really are. There's freedom in that. Honestly, you will never get through to a narcissist. A true narcissist with NPD, they won't be able to receive it. Their disorder is designed to block and deny the very information that they need the most. The very thing that would help them to heal. Their disorder blocks it out. And they have all of these defense mechanisms to protect themselves against that. So they're never going to be able to receive the truth. As you may have seen, if you confront a narcissist, they will just act like you're crazy. They will just make it out like something's wrong with you. They'll just project it onto you. All they can do really is project and deflect. They have all of these defense mechanisms to protect themselves so that they never see their flaws. They never do anything about it. They never grow. And this is why the same narcissists that you see in their 20s or 30s, they're the exact same way until the end of their lives. They never change, they never grow, they never learn anything. It's the people around them, the victims, the survivors. We are the ones who learn the most. They don't learn anything. They don't ever grow. They'll always keep doing the same thing, no matter how old they get. Mohit Mehta says they take our astral body with them. Of course not, they don't have that type of power. That's the whole point, is that why they're so negative, it's because they have no power of their own. They haven't got the ability to take your astral body away from you. They can't take your soul. No matter what they do, they'll never take your light. They'll never take your soul. This is why they're so obsessed, so attached to the world, and just trying to exploit as much out of us now. Because there is no future for them. They're not going anywhere. They have nothing to take anywhere. This is why they hold on to the world for as long as they can. But of course, that's more spiritual perspective. So it's not so much factual information, it's not psychology. But those are my spiritual beliefs anyway. Tid Predict says, is it narcissistic to demand respect? I give respect to others. No, they cannot respect you because they do not respect themselves. This is why they want to blur the lines between the separation, the distance between you and them. They want to cross over your boundaries, step into your personal space, walk all over you, treat you as their doormats. because they don't like themselves. They hate themselves. They feel much better taken from you because they see you and they see you as something greater. This is why they cross over your boundaries. Well, as for us, what do? We walk on eggshells. We're very afraid not to offend or upset them because we don't want anything from them. We're just trying to hold on to ourselves. That's the difference. We like ourselves, they can't stand themselves. That's why they cross over our boundaries. That's why they don't respect us, because they don't like themselves. They hate themselves. And that's just it. You think you hate the narcissist, they hate themselves more than you could ever hate them. They really do. And that's why they do the things that they do. It's all an expression of their own self-hatred. Raster says, life is hard enough without these idiots, making it worse. Honestly, I think many of you would find life very easy without them. And I think that's a part of it, maybe at a spiritual level, is we knew life would just be so easy, boring, that we decided to invite some pushback. And I think some of us, we may do this unconsciously. It's like we get bored, like life is just too easy. We already know, we're gonna succeed and just... So we want to invite some pushback. We want someone who's gonna go against what we stand for. Makes it more adventurous. Honestly, I think that's what many empaths and chosen ones are like, at a higher level. We may not understand that right now. But yeah, maybe at a higher level, we thought, why not introduce some completely depraved, soulless beings into the world to invite some opposition against us. And of course, there's nothing cruel or harmful about it because they don't really exist. That's the whole point of them being soulless. And that's how they're completely heartless towards you, because there's nothing actually there. If it was anything human, there would be some empathy, some compassion. Of course there isn't. So maybe that's what that is. And there are actually some spiritual theories about that. Lorraine Diane says, I found the narc never had anything new to say. Very robotic-like. Yeah, that's what it's like when you're dealing with these narcissists. It's just the same pattern of behavior again and again to no end. They repeat the same things all the time. And it just gets completely boring, predictable. It's like you already know exactly what they're going to do, going to say before they even do it. It's like, what's the point? But this is what they do because they are in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction, shame, boredom. And that's why you see the same pattern of behavior, because it's all about how they're going to counteract it. They're constantly trying to counteract their feelings of boredom, disappointment, dissatisfaction. And that's why they do the things that they do. That's why they repeat the same patterns of behavior. They use the same words, the same phrases. And this is why a lot of times they just mimic you. They just try to appeal to your own ideals, your own interests. And again, that's how they take away your sense of self. You know, normally your sense of self, your self-awareness is directed to something that resonates, vibes with you. They intervene, they step in between that. Even though it's nothing that they're about, they're not even passionate about it. But they intervene so that you direct your sense of self towards them, and then they get to feel alive. Because normally they don't feel anything. That's why they're like thrill seekers. They're always seeking a rush, adrenaline, excitement. Racer, just say no and their mask explodes. That's a good one. Oh, it does. I mean, they will not tolerate a no. They expect you to just sit there and say yes to everything. They don't care about what you want, what you like. They just want you to submit. They want to dominate you. Of course, they don't reveal that to you initially because they already know that's not even what you like. That's not even what you want. I don't think any of us were looking for someone to dominate us. Mimi Reese says we have peace. Yes, we do have peace, and that's what they want to take from you. They come around you to take your peace, happiness, and contentment. Because these are all things that they don't possess, or that they can't generate on their own. All they have is a false sense of happiness and peace, which they get from disturbing you. They're constantly always looking for reasons for you to not be happy. Because that's how it is for them. They've got a long list of reasons of why they can never be happy. And so that's what they've got to bring into your life. They have no gratitude. They have no sense of fulfillment. Thank you for the donation, Duchess Tiffany. I'm glad to hear that you appreciate my insight and wisdom. You know, I've been doing this work for a very long time. Over 7 years now. And, you know, despite that, I try to keep my content the same. I do see that there are different trends and stuff on TikTok. But, you know, it's really not for me. It's really not the type of thing that I'm drawn to. And that's why I prefer to keep my style the same. And, you know, that's what it's all about. It's just bringing you the wisdom, the clarity, the understanding of what you're dealing with. Lorraine Diane says they hate you disturbing their fantasy with reality. I mean, yeah, that's what it all comes down to. You know, they're living in La La Land. They're in their little fantasy. You know, it's like their little childhood defense against childlike defense against a hostile environment in childhood. Like you just come around and you just pop their bubble. You just wake them up and they can't stand it. Because they want to continue living in a fantasy world where they are the king or the queen and where there's nothing wrong with them. And where there's everything wrong with you and you're the villain. That's how they want it to be. But yeah, you know, Ignoring the narcissist will change everything for you. Of course, I recommend that you speak to a therapist or coach first before you go no contact, because you are their life force. You are what's keeping them afloat. It's like they can't go on without you. It's like you're taking their oxygen away from them. So you do need to be very careful. And, just definitely speak to a coach or a therapist first before you make that decision to leave. But when you do ignore them, when you do go no contact, it will change everything for you. Gradually, you will begin to feel more at peace. You will feel much better on your own, without a leech, a parasite there who constantly drains you. Because then you can focus your time and attention on yourself, or on what makes you feel good, instead of having it be all about them. Instead of constantly having to be their caretaker, their punching bag. You can focus on what makes you feel good. And that's just it, when you have more time, energy and attention to invest into yourself, of course things are going to be better for you. When you're just giving it all to a leech, nothing's going to get better. They can't do anything for you. They can't even take care of themselves, and that's why they targeted you. For you to take care of them. Thank you for the donation, Mimi Reese. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. As you can see, I just came for a walk in this park. I've never been to this park before. I mean, it was quite peaceful when I first got here. But of course, after some time, it does get quite noisy. But in a couple of weeks, I will be back in Malaysia. I will be back with Nala. Maybe doing some videos in the room and also just exploring the local area. Typically, Malaysia isn't as noisy as the Philippines, so it should be much better. Because of course, being in noisy areas where you're directing your energy and attention to things that are not serving you, you begin to lose yourself. When you're in like a busy city, and it can be very distracting. But of course, that's what a lot of people like. Many people prefer to be in busy, noisy cities because then they don't have to reflect on themselves. That's just it, when you go out into nature, when you go into remote places, that's when you really get to see how healthy your relationship with yourself is. When there are no distractions. When there's all of these distractions around you, that says nothing about you. Because you're constantly interacting with other people. So really what that does, it just tells you more about other people than it does about yourself. Because you could be a completely different person in a different environment when you're not around those people. Typically, you can't really find your own authenticity, your individuality, when you're surrounded by so many other people. That comes in solitude. And that's how I found myself. And of course, your authenticity, your true self is very attractive to people. And this is why, when I spend a lot of time by myself, that's how I found myself. I found what resonates with me. And That's how I attracted all of you. But of course, sometimes, by following trends as well, that can help. But yeah, when I first found out about narcissistic abuse, it wasn't trending. It wasn't that popular at the time. It was much of my content and others that made it that way. Lorraine Diane says, once you realize how little the narc has to offer in a relationship, you're no longer jealous of the new supply. That's it. It's all just trying to convince you, trying to make you believe in some imagined value that doesn't even exist. That's not even there. There is no value there. It's all trying to make you believe that there is. And that's just it. How you got to look at it is, why do they have to put on such a show? Why do they have to sell themselves to you? I mean, if it's really that great, it speaks for itself. I mean, if it's like a Toyota, the salesman might have to do a pretty good job to sell that car to you. They're going to have to put on a show. But if it's a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, the salesman doesn't have to do anything. The product just speaks for itself. They don't have to put on a show. They don't have to be loud or obnoxious. They don't have to do any of that. And if anything, they can do the opposite. And it can still draw you in. It can still get your attention. They can downplay it. But typically, you're not going to do that. And you're just going to let it speak for itself. But that's what we should do around these narcissists. Just act like, no, we're not that great. We're not that special. They want you to chase after their approval. Instead, just be more self-defeating. Just be like, yeah, you're right. But then also be careful, because then they will try to chase after you. And they will expect you to see it as a privilege just to be around them. So that works best at the beginning of the relationship, before you get involved with them. Because that's when you're going to want to repel them away. Typically the way it works is, when people are self-promoting, trying to sell themselves, that will attract narcissists more than anything else. When you downplay yourself, that will often repel narcissists. But again, not always. Because they may be attracted to that insecurity, especially if you're still someone who looks good or has something of value. So they may also see that as a way in. But typically, I would say it's best to downplay yourself around narcissists. Even though, yes, sometimes they may see that weakness or vulnerability as something that's going to give them control over you and keep you as their source of supply. But yeah, I'm going to get back to finishing off the video that I will be uploading within the next 8 hours. So it should be 11 a.m. EST. And the video I can't remember the video right now, I mean, as you know, I experience a lot of targeting, and I'm constantly distracted, bombarded with all sorts of things. So even though I've been working on the video since yesterday, editing it all day today and yesterday, I can't even remember the title of it at the moment. But of course, you know, we'll refresh my memory when I get back to it. Constantly dealing with other people's issues, and but that video will be up 11 a.m. EST. And as I said, you know, I spent a lot of time editing it. It's a really good video. New music, new footage. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Anyway, if this video was good for you, please give it a thumbs up. And drop your thoughts down in the comments. Any questions, let me know. I read your comments every day. Subscribe if you're new. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. Donate by going to my PayPal, paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like guidance or support to your healing journey, book a one-on-one with me today by going to narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also, I am available on Instagram. My Instagram is Narc Survivor YouTube. All right, so that's it for now. As I said, 11 a.m. EST, there will be another video. So make sure you subscribe and click on notifications so that you will be notified when I upload it. All right, thank you all. And hopefully I will see you in the video later.